Three quick areas as I get along. Once again, I'll be speaking using the title Enhancing the Value of Your Brand's Products Through Meaningful Experiences. Three quick areas I'm going to be touching. Then I will just add a bonus to it and we'll be done. The first thing I want to I would like to start with is the brand. The brand. Because the truth of the matter is that there cannot be a product without the producer of the product. There cannot be a product without the producer of the product or without the manufacturer of the product. You understand? And the truth of the matter is that whatever value it is that is placed on the brand behind the products, it would either positively or negatively affect the products. It will either positively or negatively affect the product. What it simply means is that the perception or the reputation that the brand has out there, it will go a long way to affecting the perception of people about the products or about the services that the brand actually is pushing out there. And so it's very, very important that we understand this. But before I go any further, let me just do a bit of definitions, at least to be able to give us some sort of direction. All right. When we talk about value, we're simply talking about one worth, monetary worth of something. All right. We're also talking about the equivalent of something that is exchanged, the equivalent of something that is also exchanged. And when we talk about brand, we're simply talking about those what distinguishes one thing from the other. Simply put, we're talking about your business, and we're also talking about you as an individual, because a brand could be a group of persons. A brand could also be a person, a business, and a brand could also mean a product or a service, as it were. So whatever it is that distinguishes you from the other person can be said to be a brand. So having said this, I want you to understand that it is important that who you are, again, I will repeat this, who you are and what people say that you are would go a long way to affecting whatever it is that you've got to offer. Whatever it is that you've got to offer. So before you actually push anything out there, the first thing you should do is to fix you. Before you push anything out there, the first thing you should do is to fix you. The first thing you should do is to fix your business. The first thing you should do is to fix your brand's perception, meaning that people's opinion about you as a business, meaning the entity, meaning the business. You should first fix you before you go ahead to push out any product out there. If you want the product to achieve any meaningful results, it's very, very important. What this simply means is that before you think of building anything, before you think of putting any structure on a piece of land, it is important that you first have the foundation in place. And of course, there are different types of foundation, all right, for different kinds of structure. You understand? I learned that if you want to build a skyscraper, the kind of foundation you are going to do will be different. I think I learned that it will be deeper, all right, when compared to maybe you're not building a bungalow or maybe a one-story building and the rest of that. So it is important that you first fix you before you think of fixing the products. It's very, very important. You understand? So now, because why is this important? It is like the case of it's like the case of maybe a story broke out. You understand? One of the first things before people would accept that story, one of the first things that you may need to find out is How credible? I've heard people ask this question before. How credible is your source? Meaning that the credibility of the source will determine whether or not the message will be acceptable or not acceptable. Putting this into the context for which I am speaking to you guys right now is your credibility, your acceptability as a brand will determine whether your products or your service will be acceptable or not. It is very, very important. It is very, very important. That is why it is very important that you first fix you first. You first fix your brand's reputation first before you go ahead to do what you need to do. It's very, very important. All right, it's very, very important because if you are able to build a reputation that is credible, that is based on credibility, you will realize that whatever it is that you're pushing out there, people will be able to accept them. For example, when people are seeking quality or good healthcare, when people are seeking good medical, they are looking for maybe where to get good medical, maybe medical facility, or maybe they are looking for good healthcare facility. Of course, some persons wouldn't mind if they can afford it. Some would travel out of Africa to go to where maybe places like India, if it is the case, or maybe cancer treatments and the rest of that. They could go to places like India, all right, places like maybe Dubai, places like maybe I think Germany and the rest of that, even the US, to be able to take such treatments. You understand? The reason why they do this is because of the reputation that these institutions have built over time. Aside that, if people are looking for, let's say, good education, quality education, especially at the higher level for that matter, and money is not the issue, they can afford it. Of course, they begin to look out for places like maybe Harvard or Cambridge and the rest of Oxford and the rest of that, because of the reputation, because of the reputation that these brands have built especially within the educational system or within the academic or educational industry. It's very, very important. So for you to think of pushing out anything called product or service, you need to first fix you. It's very, very important. Fix you as a brand. Fix you as a brand. It's very, very important. And this brings to mind the recent movement. You understand that Cristiano Ronaldo had to move from the club where he was to Al Nassr. That's talking about the club in Saudi Arabia. All right. You can imagine the effect that move had. You understand? He was given more like a presidential treatment to the point, and I felt this is interesting, to the point that certain laws had to be adjusted so as to be able to accommodate him and his partner. You understand? Certain laws has to be adjusted. And what was also reported in the news was that the moment he joined the club, their followership skyrocketed. That the number went off the roof. All right. Aside that, also, they also made so much money as well. You understand? No wonder they keep giving him the kind of treatment that they are giving to him. That is how powerful. That's how powerful fixing your brand is. You understand? That's how powerful fixing your brand is. You understand? And to think that it is within football and what he does is to play football. You understand? What this simply underscores is the fact that whatever industry it is that you play in, you can actually achieve whatever success it is that you desire to achieve. Whatever success it is that you desire to achieve, what you may need to do is to make sure that whatever it is that you need to do to build some sort of credibility, you build that. All right. And I also keep mentioning now, one of the things that you may need to have at the back of your mind when building your brand is to build what I like to call acceptability. Acceptability, because the first place is for them to accept you. If they don't accept you, whatever job it is that you want to do, you may not be able to succeed at it. And what can you do to build that acceptability? What can you do to build that acceptability? 3 things I would recommend, which is something that we are familiar with. Build your KLT factors. Your KLT factors. Work towards being known, work towards being liked, and work towards being trusted. Work towards being trusted. Now, for you to be known, you need to be visible. Nobody knows a silent brand. I wish somebody would write this down. Nobody knows a silent brand. Nobody knows a silent brand. The brand that people will know would have to be making loads of noise. And that is why I love what our host usually does with his brand, talking about Royal Castle advertising agency. I love what he does with it, with that brand. I also love what I think I saw her talking about Miss Covenant. I saw her. I love what she does within the real estate industry. You understand? So much noise. I sometimes wonder how these guys, how they do it. I wish they could cut that soap for me, you know. I wish they could cut that soap of energy so that I can also deploy that into my brands and also move with the kind of energy that they are moving with. So you need to work on your visibility. Is very, very important. Work on becoming more visible, because the more visible you become, the more known you will become. And when you are known, you increase your chances of being known. You understand? Of being acceptable, rather. Then the second thing, like I said, being liked is important. As you show up, people begin to pay attention to what you are saying. You understand? Now, let me say this. Even if you are saying something that seems to be rubbish, there is how you would say that thing and you are consistent at it, that people would begin to accept that it as a reality. That is how interesting this is. That's why in case you're wondering, why is it that some people are just all of a sudden they are known for what we may think is not reasonable, is not sensible? Is because despite the fact that thing may seem not to make any sense, but because they have been showing up over time, people are beginning to know them and accept them up for it. So you need to work on becoming liked. And there are several things you can do for people to begin to like you. And one of the things is what Royal Castle, the chief executive officer, did not too long ago. I saw that, and for those who follow him, they saw how him and his team, they went to the hospital. They visited the hospital, and the bills they could pay for some patients, they paid. You understand? What that does is that it increases the likeness for their brands in the minds of the people. Do you understand? Now, despite the fact that some people are frustrated with networks like MTN, you understand, with the shege that they showed us recently, you understand, despite the fact that they showed us that, people still love them. Personally, I still love them. Why? Because of the several initiatives that they are involved in. You understand? Sometimes they gather entrepreneurs together and they bring facilitators to come and speak to them. At other times, through their foundation, MTN Foundation, they do a lot of works to help people. So things like that can increase your likability. You understand? And when you are liked, you are likely to be accepted. And the third thing has to do with the trust. It's very, very important. But the truth of the matter is that you can be known, liked, and not be trusted. You understand? You can be known, liked, and not be trusted. What will make people trust you? Includes the following: your character. Your character is very important. You need to work on your character. Do people trust you? Do you do things with transparency? You understand? Very important. Work on your credibility. It's very, very important. Then work on your competence. Work on your competence. You understand? How competent are you at what you do? Very, very important. Work on becoming consistent. work on becoming consistent. Don't be the type who is the off and on kind of entrepreneur who shows up today and the next time we're going to be hearing from them will be like in a year's time. Don't be that kind of person. Then work on your communication. The more you communicate, the more you interact with people, the better the better your chances are that they will begin to trust you, because people cannot trust who they have not interacted with over time. That is why it's very, very important. That is why you notice that people who show their faces often, especially on social media, who show their faces more often, are seems to be trusted when compared to people who just do text. You understand? Who hide their faces. It's very, very important. So that is the first part of this conversation. Let's move to the second part. Sorry, I'm just trying to rush off things, because if I should go by what I have on my notes and the inspiration that's coming, I may keep you guys for under 3 hours, and that will not be fair. All right, for those of you who are just maybe closing from work or are just closing from your businesses and all of that. So permit me to move to the next part, which has to do with your brand's products or services. Your brand's products or services. Now that you have succeeded in taking care of your brand, then we can now have a conversation about your products or your services. We can now have a conversation about your products or your services. It's very, very, very important. You understand? So like I said before, and I will repeat that again, just for the purpose of establishing it as a fact. Who you are as a brand would influence the value of your brand's products. Who you are, who people perceive your brand to be, will determine whether or not you are going to make any meaningful sales or not make any meaningful sales. For example, if an organization, all right, if an organization wants to hire somebody like John C. Maxwell, for example, to come and maybe coach, or to come and maybe train their personnel, or to come and train their team on leadership. You and I know the hundreds of thousands of dollars that such organization would have to cough out. You understand? It will interest you to know that somebody else who is somewhere down the ladder, you understand? I'm not trying to relegate anybody, but somebody who is way down the ladder in terms of influence may not be, even though the person may give a better value or a bigger value, if you want to quantify it. Let's say if he is to do 1 hour and this person is ready to go 4 hours, the chances are that John C. Maxwell would be paid better compared to this other guy who is giving much more, even with much hours. The difference between the two is that one has a lot of influence and the other does not have little or no influence. So that is the difference. So what it simply means is that your products or your services, how the value people will place on them, the worth people will place on it, is largely determined by the value that they place on you as a brand or on your business. It's very important. That is why I took you guys through the process of first fixing your brand. It's very, very, very important. So how do you then increase the value of your brand? Now that you have fixed that individual, how do you then increase the value of your brand's product? The first thing you need to do is branding. And what is branding? Branding is simply the set of activities you do, all right, with the sole aim of creating the right impression on the minds of people about your brand or about your products, since we're talking about products in this context. So it's very, very important. So you need to work on your branding. When we talk about working on your branding, we're talking about working on, do you have an identity? It's the first thing to start with. You have an identity. If some of you, if you are called to come and speak right now, would people have something to read about you. All right. So it's important. So work on your branding. The second thing is excellent delivery. Excellent delivery. Excellent delivery means that you are efficient. Efficient. You are you are rendering your service or your product outside the box. Doing that with creativity and as well as doing that in record time is very, very important. All of this will count for excellence. All of this will count for excellence. Then another thing you can also do too is to do your pre-sale or an after-sales support, talking about experts, expert advice, and the rest of that. So, how do you treat people before sales? How do you treat people during sales? And how do you treat people after the sales? There are some people who would be as gentle as the dove before sales. You understand? They are still as gentle as the dove at a lower level within the sales. The moment you buy from them, they become lions. If you want to increase your brand's worth of value, then you need to be dove all the way. You understand? Dove all the way, meaning that you need to show concern and all of that. So it's very, very important. Apart from that, also, you need to ensure that your product or your service is solution oriented. It's not the type that is promising this and is delivering something else. It's not the type that instead of solving people's problems, rather complicating them. That shouldn't be the case. Aside that, also, you need to also be as clear and honest with the information that you have about your product or your service. There are some people who would overpromise and underdeliver. You don't want that kind of situation for your products. Rather, you need to promise and overdeliver. It's very, very important. And the onus is on you to be able to deliver upon whatever promise it is that you make, no matter what it will take. Make whatever promise it is that you make, do all you can to make sure you keep to that promise. Make sure your product or your service keeps to that promise, no matter what it will take. It's very, very important. Of course, you need to work on quality. You need to work on quality. You don't want to be known. You don't want people to know your product for being substandard. You need to work on quality. Apart from that, also, of course, custom made or customized kind of
Okay,
as service.
you have 5 minutes more.
Okay, 5 minutes more. All right, no problem. All right, so you need to ensure that your you need to ensure that you have a custom made kind of service, meaning that how you serve Mr. A may likely be different from how you serve Mr. B. So this is how you also deal with the issue of your products or your service, how to increase the value. Now, if you notice in all of these things, you realize that even though I didn't mention it, one thing keeps playing, and it speaks to experience. It speaks to experience because whatever experience people have with your brand would, of course, affect their disposition with your product or your service, and whatever how your product turn out to become, or how your product is to people, will determine the kind of experience they're also going to get. And you understand? And so what I just shared with you is to take you through how you can meaningfully influence or affect or positively affect their experience. So this leads me to the last thing on my table, and I will be very brief with this. Now, and this has to do with the brand's originated location. You understand? And how it influences people's perception. Now, you remember okay, before I go any further, I would like to please appeal to the MC and the host, if it is fine by them, if they can give me maybe an extra 5 minutes, because this is very, very important. Somebody needs to hear this. You understand? Because I hope I'm giving. If I'm not giving, that's fine. Or if I'm giving, that is okay. All right. Am I giving extra 5 minutes, please?
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. So this is very, very important. there are some nations that people don't want to do business with. And whether we want to agree with this statement or not, it's a statement of fact. And I will use, and I'm sorry with all due respect to Nigerians in the house, have you ever wondered why up until this time, except now that they are saying, now that Facebook is saying that they want to also help to monetize the, want to help to maybe reward the creatives or the creators, maybe sometime in June. You understand? How come Nigeria, as one of the major contributors to their platform, they didn't deem it fit, you understand, to give us this privilege, to give us this opportunity before this time? What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Sometimes the image of where you're operating from could positively or negatively affect or influence your brand. And I'm sorry to say this, that Nigeria and some African countries, even some other countries outside of Africa, people are finding it difficult to do business with them. Not because they don't have incredible minds there. How come Nigerians are going to the Europe and America and they are doing excellently well? And people can freely relate with them there. But when they cross the shores of those countries into Nigeria, the reverse becomes the case. Why? It's because of the notion, it's because of the perception. Still boils down to branding. It's because of the perception that people have about the nation. And that is why we need to become citizens that are patriotic to be able to solve this problem. Because like I said, you may choose to deny it, you may choose to shy away from it, but it is the truth. And so what this simply means, what I would recommend is, if you must say anything about your nation, no matter how terrible things are, please say positive things about your nation. I know that some of you, I just turned you off by saying what I just said now, but it is affecting your businesses. It's affecting the deals that you have with some of these foreign guys. It's affecting it seriously. It's also affecting even the value that they place on your services or your products. How come they can pay these other guys that huge amount of money, but when it comes to us Africans, or come to us, especially the ones that they call third world countries, how come they are not willing and ready to pay us that kind of amount, even though some of them end up using us to execute the job? It's all about perception. It's all about the kind of perception they have about us. And so we need to begin to change the narrative. We need to begin to change the narrative. And the things we can do is to begin to provide responsible leadership. At your business level, begin to provide responsible leadership. Begin to become a patriotic citizen of your nation. Become patriotic citizen of your nation. Commit to giving good experiences. Commit to giving good experiences. Be an ambassador of your nation through the services or through the product that you render. Let people begin to say, well, even though I heard about these people, but my dealing with this guy, or my dealing with this lady, or my dealing with this business proved me wrong. Let that begin to become the narrative. And with time, because what some of us don't know is that even some of the nations that we look up to, they have their issues, but you will hardly hear their citizens backlashing or badmouthing their nation. They know what they are doing. So we need to begin to make that adjustment. I think I'll stop there and conclude by saying that in addition to whatever it is I've said, I want you to please take this to heart, that if you want to give the best of experience, then you need to equip your team with the right education, equip your team with the right things that they need to know. Train your team on how to respect people, how to trust people, how to treat people right, and all of those things very important. Apart from that, you need to also be responsive and be easy to reach. Not the type that people are looking for you and they will search the whole social media, they can't find you. Maybe because of the kind of name that you go by. You understand? So it's important. Then apart from that, also highlight the ease of use. Your product or your service, be clear about how people can use it. It's very important. Instruction for use. Make it very clear. Use the language that people understand. If you need to localize language, please localize it. It's very important because you are serving people and not aliens. It's very important. Apart from that, also pay attention to their concerns. Interestingly, Their concerns would also give you an idea of what to produce next or what to do next. It's important. Apart from that, also there's need for you to also create a helpful and friendly environment. A helpful and friendly environment. Then, of course, create a customer satisfaction kind of arrangements. What this means is that ensure that you are committed and dedicated to ensuring that whoever walks to you or walks through those doors are satisfied. All right. It's very, very important. Then, lastly, like I mentioned before, personalized service. Personalized service. You understand? Learn to customize people's experience with you. That they will say that, oh, even though they treated this person like this, they treated me like this. Treat them in the way that is best suitable for them. You understand? And even though all of this thing takes work, but I believe that with dedication and with commitment, you will be able to do this. I hope that with these few things I've shared with you guys tonight, you have seen the need to start with your branding, to start with fixing your branding before you talk about the other things that you want to talk about. Because if your branding is right, apparently it would influence positively the worth of your products and as well as your service. My name is Simon Matthew. Thank you very much for listening. So I'll stand by for question. Over to you, our able MC. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Please, let's put our hands together for the king of branding himself. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. That was so impactful.
Thank you.
Wow, my daughter is full. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Please, I would like to bring to our notice that this meeting will be ending in 3 minutes. So what I would love all of us to do is, in case you are logged out, kindly click on the same link to read.